Just before we get into this video, guys, if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, the links are here. And if you also want to support me on Patreon as well and help out my channel, that would be absolutely awesome as well. But let's get on with the video. Hey guys, it is Wingy here and welcome back to a brand new video on my channel, and the first one of the decade. Now, I know I've been a little bit quiet, but I was just enjoying the holiday period, basically. So I hope you all had a really good Christmas, really good New Year, all that bollocks. Anyway, let's get back into video mode. Now, as you can tell from the title and thumbnail, today we're going to be talking about Star Wars. The saga is over now, but with hindsight, for me personally, I really didn't like the sequel trilogy. And I want to talk about some of the main issues that I have as a whole with the just 3 movies, not including Rogue One or Solo or anything, but just The Force Awakens, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, and just talk about what went wrong. Star Wars, as you're aware, is probably one of the biggest franchises ever. It's one of the most recognisable, one of the most iconic, arguably the greatest trilogy ever made is the original Star Wars trilogy. Why didn't this one live up to the hype then? First and foremost, for me, I think the main issue that I have with this sequel trilogy is that there isn't a clear direction. If you are going into a trilogy of movies, and you know you are going into a trilogy of movies, you plan it out. You plan it like almost as if it's book chapters, you know, a beginning, a middle and an end. It's very clear to me that what they did with The Force Awakens, yeah, okay, we'll let JJ do his own thing. Then when it came to Rian Johnson making The Last Jedi, it was very much just like, right, well, fuck that off. We don't need to worry about that. I'm just going to do my own thing. And you can't do that. And I know a lot of people say, but, oh, it subverted your expectations. But something needs to happen where you plan it out fully. You can't just randomly say, right, well, you know, we'll just ignore what happened before and I'll put my twist on it. And then in the third movie, you've got to rectify it somehow. When I first saw The Last Jedi, I genuinely did not know how they were going to do the next movie. They could have just ended it with Last Jedi because it felt like an ending. Or they could have even done an episode 10. It didn't feel right. Regardless of what you think of the movies, you can't say that it feels linear in any way, shape or form. You can't really say that The Last Jedi naturally follows on from The Force Awakens, or The Rise of Skywalker naturally follows on from The Last Jedi. Not in the same way that, you know, the original trilogy naturally continued the story, or as much as people give it shit, the prequel trilogy actually did that as well. It feels like there's a clear goal in mind. It feels like there's a clear goal of where they wanted to go, but with these movies, it's the total opposite. I don't mind you taking risks, I don't mind subverting expectations, but do it well and do it in a way that makes sense and overall doesn't ruin what you're trying to do. I think for me, one of the second major issues that I had with this sequel trilogy was that they didn't really develop the characters that they had at their disposal. Now, obviously, when you're bringing in new characters, you are going to have essentially a blank slate, and it's sort of going back again to the lack of clear direction. There isn't really a direction for any of the characters in this sequel trilogy. For me, you look at a character like Finn, and in The Force Awakens, he is this coward, essentially. He's afraid. He's running away from the First Order. He doesn't want to be a stormtrooper anymore. And that was a really great story arc, initially. And you think, oh, okay, where's this going to go? You know, he's classed as a traitor to these people. Other people don't trust him because of his links to the First Order. Where is this going to go? And throughout the course of The Force Awakens, you see him as a character develop. You see him grow. You see him become brave, you see him become stronger, to the point where initially he wants to run away. Later on in the film, he's brave enough to pick up a lightsaber and take on a trained Sith, essentially, in Kylo Ren. And I thought, wow, okay, great, that's great character development. Then they fuck it up by one of the first things that he does in The Last Jedi is he's running away again and he's a coward again. It's that total 180 that just doesn't make sense. Like, you have the potential there with a character like Finn to do something really compelling, and they just didn't do it. They just ignored it. A character like Rey, I know people give her a lot of shit. Some of it is totally justified, some of it is not. But quite frankly, she is a Mary Sue. She is a character who doesn't have a character journey. One minute, she's this nobody who is just a survivor on a desert planet. The next minute, she's the most fucking powerful person that has ever existed. And there's no in between there. Initially, I did actually defend Rey. I did say that maybe there is a reason for this, but whilst there is now a reason for it, it doesn't make sense, and it's not satisfying, and it's not compelling writing. It's almost as if you take Luke in A New Hope and you see him on Tatooine and he wants to, you know, join the rebellion and all this sort of stuff. And then when it gets to the moment on the Death Star, when Obi-Wan is taken out, Luke picks up the lightsaber and beats Darth Vader. It wouldn't make sense. Luke goes on a character journey. You can see where he starts off on Tatooine to where he ends up in Return of the Jedi, and the character has grown totally. And he's had to go through things. His life has changed and he has lost a lot. And he's had to work for it, you know? Empire Strikes Back. He doesn't beat Vader. He's not even close to beating Vader. Vader's holding back throughout that entire fight. He's toying with him essentially, and yet Luke still can't overcome that. And then you come to Return of the Jedi, some time has clearly passed, and Luke is now more level-headed, more calm, more collected, and all around a better skilled Jedi. You don't have to physically see him training to understand that time has passed, and in that time Luke has been learning and training. But with Rey, because these movies feel like they literally just happen one after the other, she's just amazing for no fucking reason. It's not compelling writing. Like, as good as an actress Daisy Ridley is, it just doesn't work. How are you supposed to relate to a character that is flawless, that has no issue whatsoever? What makes a character compelling is the fact that they do go through trials and tribulations, and they struggle and they suffer and they have to grow and they have to learn. If you are just handed everything on a plate, that's not interesting and it's not relatable. Arguably the most developed character in this entire sequel trilogy is Kylo Ren, and I think personally they fucked that up as well. I don't think the whole romance aspect with him and Rey was entirely necessary, if at all necessary, really. He's got a cool fucking lightsaber though, so I'll give you that, but what were the Knights of Ren? What were they about? And then the last thing that I want to talk about is not necessarily the biggest issue, and you could argue that this is nitpicky, but I feel the treatment of the original trilogy characters in the sequel trilogy overall was pretty poor. Now, I can't deny that they obviously had issues behind the scenes. Mark Hamill, yeah, he was always going to come back. Carrie Fisher unfortunately passed away. They're not going to be able to predict that. Rey probably could have. Harrison Ford obviously fucking hates Star Wars, so he was obviously going to be a bit more difficult to bring back, and if you were going to bring him back, he would request to be killed off, which obviously is what happened in The Force Awakens. So obviously, they had their limitations there. But at the same time, they could have done more. What people were expecting going into The Force Awakens was to see these characters pass the torch. But I think they also wanted to see these characters together again. To start off the films with Han and Leia have broke up, Luke is missing, you know, these characters don't even interact with each other. We don't even get like a proper reaction to Han Solo's death from Luke Skywalker. Like, these little things, they really play on the minds of fans, and they might not seem like a big deal to certain audience members who are just sort of casual and not really bothered, but to Star Wars fans, like, they want to see these fan servicey moments. They want to see these characters interact with each other. They still want them to not necessarily be the main focus, but still be an important part of the story. And yet they don't feel like that. They feel like they're playing second fiddle, which, again, you could argue they probably should be, but there's a way to do it that is respectful to those characters and to the fans as well. I mean, fan service galore is this entire trilogy, but I just feel like the fan service that they did actually have wasn't justified, or not even justified, just was crap and a bit distracting at times. And having looked at a movie like The Rise of Skywalker, like, there's so many stuff where it's just sort of like, well, what was the point in that then? What was the point in that then? And what was the point in that then? Like, what was the fucking point in Snoke? Why are we bringing the Emperor back all of a sudden when it's not been a thing? Like, it wasn't even mooted at any point. Mooted? That is a word, right? You know, why in every single movie are you killing off one of the main original trilogy characters? I mean, obviously, that is a way to go, I guess, but the fact that we never got to see Luke, Han, and Leia share the screen ever again when they're all in the same movie, it's a joke. It's a fucking joke. I think these movies definitely have their positives. They definitely do. I think visually they are stunning. But I think that's the problem. They are style over substance. I think a lot of the content in these movies, I don't think people would care about these movies if they didn't have the Star Wars name on them. I really, really don't. They don't have the magic, they don't have that charm, they don't have personality of the original trilogy, or even the prequels, which, to be fair, were pretty cold in a lot of ways. It's a shame because I am a Star Wars fan, and I genuinely didn't care that they were bringing out another Star Wars movie last year. I just couldn't give a shit, so it is what it is. And at least I have the original trilogy and moments of the prequels to enjoy still, but these I don't think I'll come back to them, to be perfectly honest with you, unless I do a review of all the Star Wars movies at one point, which I'm thinking of doing, but we'll have to see. But anyway guys, let me know in the comments what you think. The sequel trilogy, do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you not? Why not? Whatever it is, let me know. Also, make sure you leave a like on this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I will see you guys in the next one. And I will also love you forever if you do any of those things that I said before. You can tell I've not done a video for a while because I'm forgetting what I fucking say at the end of every video. But until next time guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye. Why are you out of focus? There we go.